So another month has completely flown by. We are at the end of September, so it's time to rank all of the new releases I saw this month. We're going to get right into it. As I talk about the movies, join me down below in the comments. Let me know your list. Give me your rankings of the films you saw this month, or refer me some films I maybe didn't get around to. Maybe I'll check them out later and talk about them. Yeah, let's talk about September new releases. Coming as no surprise to anybody who follows my channel, my least favorite movie during the month of September was The Strangers Chapter 2. What a disaster. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you why we're still doing this trilogy. In fact, we might not even get part 3. Part 2 did so bad. But this was just a concept that had so much potential. At the same time, it begs the question why we're remaking such a simplistic movie in The Strangers. It's an effective movie. Do we really need 3 movies of backstory? I don't. But I was open-minded anyways going into the first one. I was pretty excited. I left that one disappointed. I left The Strangers Chapter 2 straight up defeated. Like, I don't know if I have another one of these movies in me. It's that bad. I didn't like anything about this film besides one single shot in the opening scene in the hospital. I looked up the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. This has a positive audience score. Not gonna lie, kind of made me lose faith in society if that's the bar. That's how low it's set, and we can say that's okay. But I didn't like anything about this film. I thought it was derivative. I thought the chase scenes were not suspenseful. There's really no plot or anything that really elaborates on the first chapter, which is super disappointing because really the only point of doing this trilogy is to flesh out a new story, and we didn't get anything in this. This was just a 90-minute chase scene that somehow manages to be neither suspenseful or terrifying or anything. It's just not interesting. As I said in my review, a masterclass in how to not direct suspenseful scenes. For a movie with so much action, with so much chase, there's nothing going on here to keep your interest. The acting is probably the best part by Madeline Pesh, but everything other than that, absolute disaster. There's no suspense. You see way too much of the stranger. There's a CGI bore like a Disney live action film. So yeah, I hated this film. When Chapter 3 comes out, the Vegas betting books are probably going to have it minus 1,000 that I hate that one too. It's pretty much a sure lock at this point. They're going to have to reinvent the wheel for me to even possibly consider that being good. Coming up next ahead of that is a movie that's actually not that far ahead in hindsight. The more I think about this movie, it gets dumber every time. That is Him, the football horror movie. This was just a movie that reeked of a director who huffed his own farts when he wrote it. This is a movie that's trying to be so profound and say things that we're not sure of, but it's saying the most surface level commentary that everybody's aware of. Like, sure, football players risk their health. They get CTE. We've seen the studies. Sure, they're dedicated to their craft, almost to the point of religious devotion. They are so dedicated to being the best. And all of these topics, I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of, so I don't really know why we needed a movie to give us that. And much like the movie below it, this is just a film with not a whole lot going on. You show up to the film and, it's set up interesting enough. I said in my review, I actually kind of liked the buildup of this film. I was kind of on board with this movie for like the first 2/3, honestly. But it cratered off the cliff into dog shit territory because when you figure out what this movie's trying to do, it completely ruined any of the possibilities of that buildup. So when you get the answer, it's like one giant 90-minute music video where there's really no substance to anything. Then you'll have some satanic imagery that's laid on so thick even a 5-year-old could figure it out. Then you have another drill, and then they'll show you something about the Last Supper, and then you'll have another drill. And it got so fucking repetitive by the end. I could not stand this film. I thought it was one of the most boring and preachy, pretentious films I've seen all year. It was ridiculous. All up until the point this movie has a monologue about how we should feel bad for athletes who are being groomed and used as if they're not acquiring generational wealth again. Another one of these Hollywood projects that is just so tone deaf in what it's trying to say and, the sympathy plea towards these athletes for giving their health for us. Again, most people would trade their lives with these athletes in a minute for millions of dollars, regardless of the risk. That's why there's like a 1,000 person waiting list for every position in every sport. So this movie was just stupid. It's a shame because Marlon Wayans is pretty good. The other guy who's the main lead football player was pretty good, but everything other than that, this is a movie that from the moment I left it, I've been forgetting more and more of it by the minute, and it's been getting dumber by the minute. Coming in at number 5 this month is actually The Conjuring: The Last Rites. For a Conjuring movie, they changed the formula way too much, and since you don't have James Wan at the helm, they really don't know how to make the movie as scary, as suspenseful as it probably should. You spend way too much time in this movie with family drama about the daughter's marriage proposal and stepping into the family. You don't even get to the major house that this takes place in until the final 40 minutes of a 2-hour movie. It takes forever. And you feel every minute up until the point you enter that house because it's such a slog to get through this family drama you don't really care about because they're introducing characters we've never even seen before in the conclusion of this. Up until the point you get to the major house all of these Conjuring films take place in, and Ed and Lorraine Warren at this point are basically the Avengers. Where's the fucking ghost? We got to exercise it. No stakes at all. They're going to live. There's no suspense to the acts they're doing. It's an absolute rehash of all of the other Conjuring films, just done a little bit worse. And I forgot to mention that from the teaser we knew going into this has some of the worst CGI of the year. Every major moment involving a demon or some suspenseful scene has a terribly CGI'd entity it takes you completely out of the movie because this could never possibly happen, which is something that the other Conjurings were kind of known for, being grounded in reality. It felt like these are stories that could actually happen. At this point, this movie's about as realistic as Nightmare on Elm Street. There's nothing realistic about it. And on top of that, if you're bored, look up the real Warren story and you'll probably find it even creepier than these movies. That family was not okay. So this was an okay watch, I guess. It was too long for me. It was 2 hours and just a movie I would never revisit. If I revisited a Conjuring movie, it would be number 1 then number 2 in that order, and I would never watch the other two. That's how much better the first two are. Not the worst movie I've seen of the year by far, but just a forgettable experience in a franchise, quite frankly, I'm not super interested in the future of it. I know they're making a huge universe out of it. I don't really think we need one. Ahead of that, coming in at number 4 is probably the most controversial opinion of the month. That is One Battle After Another. Now, when I reviewed this film, apparently because I didn't think it was the greatest piece of art ever created, I'm just the biggest Paul Thomas Anderson hater who doesn't understand the commentary. We need to stop discussing movies like that, okay? I didn't like the fucking movie. That's why I didn't like the movie. It has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do, nothing. I just thought the movie was kind of silly and quirky, and the comedy didn't work for me. From the opening scene, I was at battle with this film saying, like, what am I watching? You know, within the first 15 minutes when you introduced to Sean Penn's character, I just thought it was way over the top cartoony, and I'm somebody who's pretty vocal. If comedy doesn't work for you, if delivery doesn't work for you, you're probably not going to enjoy that type of movie that he's making. And it, for me, just didn't land as somebody who likes some of his other films. There were a couple of moments I thought were downright hilarious. I thought Leo gives a great performance. And I thought like the chase scene on the highway was pretty cool. And there were some other things as well. But for the majority of this film, I was at odds with it. And I thought it was a pretty miserable watch because I didn't think it was funny. I thought the quirkiness completely smashed the tone of the entire film. I felt nothing, which is something in the comment section that was really surprising to me. People kept saying this was such a profound movie. There was such emotional stakes. I felt nothing in this film. To me, this movie just had no character development. The characters are kind of layered in the way they perform, but I didn't care about any of these characters because both sides are made to be equally terrible. You have these fascists who are being taken on by these revolutionaries who are basically domestic terrorists. So who am I supposed to root for? Absolutely nobody. And if you're somebody who's hearing that and you're saying, well, yeah, you're supposed to. No, you're the problem, 100%. You don't root for either side. They're both terrible. That's the point. No gray area here. If you disagree, you are way too tied up in identity politics. Whatever your political stance is, had nothing to do with why I didn't like this film. I just don't think the movie made any sense tonally. So sorry about that rant, but I had to put that one to bed because I do not want to be political on this channel. And every time I review anything that has a sniff of politics, the whole comment section becomes good versus evil. I don't care. I'm talking about that movie. But moving on to number 3 is actually the Shudder original Night of the Reaper. This movie is kind of a home invasion with a twist where the killer who's killing these people inside the houses is recording the films, almost making his own snuff films, which we've seen before, but he's kind of making his own horror movies when he does it, which is a twist on a home invasion movie that I'm actually really happy for because we don't get a whole lot of that, if any. We've got a bunch of snuff films, never that in depth with the guy's elaborate plan to film this. I thought that was really cool. It's up this high because I thought this was an easy watch and a fun little Halloween film if you like home invasion slashers. I mean, again, it's nothing that's going to change your world, but when you get to the second half of this movie, it morphs into something completely different, does a 180, and at that point, I think the movie really picks up, even though at that point, you have to suspend a little disbelief. But I thought it was very creative when you get to the second half, because what it starts off as is one of these films that just completely switches on its head, and I would be very surprised if anybody can predict where this movie goes. And I'm a sucker for films that take massive swings and have massive twists, because I've seen so many movies as is. We talk movies all the time here. Whenever a movie can do something different I haven't predicted or seen before, immediately gets bonus points. Maybe I grade on a curve. It is what it is. I'm honest. But yeah, I had a good time with this film. Definitely not like the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it was a fun little watch. So if you get a chance to see it, Night of the Reaper on Shudder, probably coming to VOD as well. Slasher with a twist. Coming in at number 2 is actually the Stephen King adaptation, The Long Walk. I had a good time with this film. You have one citizen from all 50 states walking on this road, and the stipulation is the last man standing wins, everybody else dies. So color that as motivation next time you need to go to the gym and get on the treadmill, get in a little bit better shape. I feel like that would be ample motivation for me. For the most part, I really enjoyed this film. You have two main characters, they become buddies, and you have this group that's actually called the Four Musketeers, I believe, or the Four Amigos. And this is just a coming of age story, kind of like Stand By Me with dire stakes to it, because you know most of the people, if not all of them, are not going to live by the end of the film, which makes you buy in as an audience member to the attachment these characters have and gives this movie an emotional edge and has commentary about just being human at the end of the day, humanity more so than individual achievement. And I really enjoyed all of that, but the problem I have with this film that I feel like I differ from a majority of people on is that I didn't think this movie was executed flawlessly. Everyone else is saying this is so emotional. It had its emotional touches, I think, in moments I acknowledged I should be incredibly emotional here. But this movie never really won me over and got me to the point I was full on emotional and invested in the stakes, because I found it to be pretty predictable just given the structure of the film. I didn't hate it or anything, but when you get those major power moments that are supposed to pack a punch and you're supposed to walk away really taking something, I saw him coming a mile away, and it never really was executed in a way I really felt it. You know, I saw it, I resonated with it, I knew what they wanted to do in those moments, but I didn't get that gut punch like other movies. That's why it was just a little bit less effective. But coming in at number 1 is my favorite movie during the month of September, and I need to remind again, I still have that childhood love for films. I watch movies for fun before anything else. I know I'm kind of a critic in the eyes of a lot of people, but I still like movies that give me that authentic movie experience where I just have a blast and it takes me like into the movie. And the movie that gave me that experience in the month of September, it's by far probably not the best movie on this list. In fact, I know it's not. That's why I said Long Walk and probably even One Battle After Another are better made movies. But my favorite movie was The Jester 2. This movie gave me the same experience I had when I watched Terrifier 2 for the first time. I was not super sold on the Terrifier franchise. I did not like the Jester film at all. I hated that film. I thought it was just a terrible full-length film. I'd seen the short film years before, kind of forgettable to be honest as well. The character was okay. But going into the Jester 2, I actually had optimism because of the Terrifier series. And I said, maybe what we're starting to do in society is we're going to have a terrible slasher. And number 2, they're going to get a bigger budget and they're going to learn from all of their mistakes. And that is exactly what this film did. This movie felt exactly like the upgrade of Terrifier 2, minus all the gore. This movie's not gore at all, really. But you have this entity named the Jester who's walking around on Halloween night and he needs to sacrifice 4 souls so that he can avoid eternal damnation. And he runs into a young girl who's dressed as a magician. She's also playing tricks as well because she's dressed up like that. And they kind of form this alliance because he needs her to perform these tricks and sacrifice these souls. But at the same time, she's kind of trying to trick him and get out of this like deal with the devil. And it sounds incredibly silly. I am not naive to that, but it's just a whole lot of fun. You have this guy walking around and he's just role playing as a jester, and the way they do these kills and some of the magic tricks and the gimmicks, the way they set up scares is really fun. It's hard to explain unless you've seen it, but there's just so many ways they're utilizing this character that is so much fun. They could have probably even went farther, to be honest. They didn't do any of that in the first film. They do a ton of it here. Much like in the first film of Terrifier, it's just a massive gore fest. And number 2, he's having a little bit more fun and he's playing with the eye goggles. That's kind of what the Jester's doing here. He's kind of poking fun at people. He's pranking people before he kills them. Acting is shoddy in some places because it's incredibly low budget. I don't even need to look up the budget to know this is probably like less than $100,000, I'd say. But the thing I enjoyed the most about this movie, aside from the characters of the Jester and the main girl, is this movie is just oozing Halloween. Like every single set piece in here has Halloween decorations or lights or trick-or-treating. And my arsenal is never full when it comes to gathering movies I can throw on in the background around fall with the family or just watch something while I'm handing out candy. These are the movies I seek out, and this one is guaranteed to be in my repertoire going forward. I don't even know if the movie's out yet on VOD. I know it had a limited release in theaters, but if you do get a chance this fall season to check out The Jester 2, I highly recommend it, because if you are a fan of Terrifier, Terrifier 2, those franchises that really started off kind of slow and they've been building and building, I think The Jester 2 is a massive step up, a lot of fun, and I really hope this movie does well and they have ideas for a third film with a bigger budget, because I think we could go right down the realm of Terrifier and we could have another Halloween icon in The Jester, because he is really cool in this movie. So there you have it, guys. That's my ranking for the month of September. Comment down below, as I said, let me know yours, but I will see you in the next review. Peace.